We are pleased to be joined by the head football coach of the Struthers Wildcats, John Bayuk. Coach Bayuk, how are you today, sir?
Good, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Let's talk a little bit about the craziness that was 2020 and knock on wood, pray to the football god, small g, that we don't have the craziness continue on into 2021. Before we kick 2020 into the rearview mirror, what were some of the things that you took away from that season that you might incorporate in 2021, Coach?
You know, talking to a lot of people before our season started last year, we talked a lot about how young we were, and how were we going to react to adversity last year. And obviously, there was a lot more adversity thrown at these young kids than we anticipated. But I'm really leaning on our kids' experience last year to kind of help us out this year with how young we were to, we got a lot of kids back. And, if it wasn't COVID last year, it was an injury the next week. It was something happening with, another kid off the field. And there was just so much different adversity that our kids went through last year that I'm just banking on that experience, that learning experience is going to flow into 2021. And our off season has been great. And they really have been, I can tell that their Friday night under the light experience last year is really helping them start their off season this year. So, just that all the stuff they had to face last year, I'm hoping we come out this year as a stronger, more experienced football team.
So many people sit back and say, "Oh man, look at the short-term carnage." I mean, you're going to have all these kids that are inexperienced, and they're going to struggle. And short-term, yeah, you're right, but long-term, that means that these kids are going to have that much more experience coming into 2021. And like you said, as long as they are still 100% in on the program, boy, the sky's the limit with the ball club.
For sure. And, we've had, since June 1st, we haven't had under 50 kids. And today we had 66. And I can't be more happy with kids showing up, buying into what we're feeding them. And they're really all in. A lot of coaches always say, you got to be all in order to be successful. And we have a great group of kids that have just work their tails off. Honestly, this is probably the most I've ever pushed a group of kids since I've been at Struthers. And they show up every morning, and they're working their tails off. So I'm really excited just by watching their work ethic to see what they produce on Friday nights.
I've talked with a number of coaches, and this off season has been really controversial in so many different ways. At the top of the list is the 12 versus 16 playoff teams, but I've also been talking with a lot of coaches with the trade-off. With the 16 playoff teams, the trade-off is you get unlimited amount of practices June and July, but you're going to be moving the season up 1 week, and because the season is moved up 1 week, the two-a-days, you're only going to get a minimal amount before you start your first scrimmage. In the climate that we're in right now, are the unlimited practice days without pads a good trade-off for limited amount of two-a-days before you open up the scrimmages, Coach?
Honestly, Ron, no, not at all. And I'm really not happy with a lot of the decisions that the OHSAA has made here the last few months because limiting our doubles is limiting our hitting time. And not that I want to expand hitting into June or July, but honestly, we haven't really restructured our June and July is the same. We haven't really added 6 days a week in June because we can. We really still go 3-4 days a week, and June and July haven't really been affected. It's that, when you start acclimating in helmets, acclimating in shoulder pads, and then you start hitting, our first scrimmage is 2 days after we start hitting for the first time ever. So I just really don't see the benefit of moving the season up a week. And, safety is the number one concern for coaches and parents and kids. And, just teaching kids how to correctly form tackle and correctly hit people, we're losing that time. And I don't think by expanding June and July, you really fix that issue. So those are my thoughts on that. And, the playoff is another whole conversation.
John Bayuk, the head football coach of the Struthers Wildcats, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline. And you mentioned the safety part of this, and, God forbid someone were to lose a significant player that, everyone is depending upon on both sides of the ball. And I suppose, well, I don't even want to say this in jest or whatever, but I would think that would finally get everyone's attention as to, hey, this is the reason why you screwed up this whole process.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we're lucky that we have a lot of numbers here that hopefully we would never get into the situation where it's a kid that's going to get hurt. But when you run into these smaller schools that have 20 to 30, 25 kids on your football team, you might not have anyone else, like you're suggesting. And that's where, that proper teaching that we need in August is just they're taking it away from us. And I don't think it's how do I want to say it? I don't think it's a proper way to do things if you want to expand the playoffs. And I just think that it's a selfish act on the OHSAA.
Coaches, and I've heard so many coaches sit back and say, you know what, instead of playing 2 scrimmages, we're going to play 1 scrimmage, and the early part of the 2-a-days, we'll just get another team in and do a joint practice, which apparently equals a scrimmage. Has that thought crossed your mind?
Honestly, since what happened last year, it hasn't, because losing our first scrimmage last year really didn't help us out. So I wanted to make sure coming into this year that we had 2 scrimmages for sure. So that never even really crossed my mind, just because I really think our kids needed that, especially with how young we were. We needed that 2 scrimmages to get us started in the season, and we didn't get it. So I wanted to make sure that didn't happen this year.
All right, Coach, let's talk a little bit about your team. You've reiterated that it was a very young ball club in 2020. A lot of kids that probably wouldn't have played under normal circumstances played in 2020, expecting some serious dividends with that in 2021. Just how many kids do you have back on each side of the ball, Coach?
So we have about 8 starters back on offense and 7 on defense. And the void we need to fill right now is up front on both sides of the ball. So that kind of concerns me, just because, high school football starts up front, and, you battle it out in the trenches. Usually, that's the team that comes out victorious. But we're really, our skill positions are all back. All of our receivers, all of our secondary. We have a 3-year starter linebacker back. I'm really excited for our skill positions, but we really got to hone in on our fronts on both sides of the ball.
And obviously, the offensive and defensive lines, you get strong in the weight room. How was the offseason weight program, Coach?
Couldn't be more excited, man. I'm telling you, our kids showed up 3 days a week, every week in the offseason. And not just our linemen. I mean, our quarterback, Dylan Greenwood, I haven't really ever seen a quarterback work as hard in the weight room as I have him this offseason. And, it's just been a pleasure working with kids that want to come to work, and the W word we always throw around, kids don't want to work these days. But this offseason has been really, really exciting just to watch them grow physically and mentally, because now we have an offseason where we could talk about offense. We could talk about defense that we didn't have last year. So just all around, the offseason has been great, honestly, for the coaching staff too, just because we can now sit down and have these meetings and go out and run some schemes that we've been drawing up that we weren't able to do last year.
You know, I'm glad you brought up the term meetings, and in 2020, everyone pretty much learned how to use Zoom meetings, and with the pandemic and whatnot. Is that something that's going to stay in the, for lack of a better word, playbook at Struthers?
Concerning like Zoom meetings?
Yeah, Zoom meetings with kids and whatnot.
Yeah, we did that a few times last off season, especially with workouts. We try to do like virtual workouts, and it's just not the same as being in person, man. Because talking and not showing is, I'm a teacher, and kids learn by seeing it. You know, and I know on Zoom you can like show and do things like that, but when you're with a kid one-on-one, or you got your 8 interior guys and you're able to show them what you want, it's just a lot different. So I hope we don't have to go virtually ever again. But obviously, if that happens, we would have to utilize it. But there's such a big difference between me telling a kid what I need him to do and me showing them.
Struthers head football coach John Bayuk joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. You know, Coach, I'm a huge fan of playing up. The Northeast 8 is the essential, or the definition, I should say, of playing up. Just a rough and tough division, week in, week out. And you know you're going to have your hands full 7 weeks out of the 10. But let's talk about the non-conference schedule. What are you guys looking at for weeks 1 through 3?
So we travel up to St. Thomas Aquinas week 1. And then we have Manoa Crestwood coming down to our place week 2. And then we have Streetsboro coming down to our place week 3. So we kind of have an up and down division-wise. You know, we start smaller, but then we eventually get to Streetsboro. So I like the mix. I think it's going to be a good test for our kids just because we're going to see different things. They run a lot of different things offensively, so our defense will get a lot of different looks that'll help us as we enter our league. So I'm excited for our first 3. I think they're going to really test us, and it'll be a good experience to start off the season.
You know, the variety that you see offensively, defensively, I mean, that's going to help as well once you get to postseason.
For sure. And, you know, that's something that, especially our league, I tell everybody, our league prepares us for the playoffs because, you know, every team in our league in some way or form tests you in ways that you haven't seen the previous week. So playing teams like the teams in the NE8 just prepare us for week 11 and week 12.
John Bayuk, the head football coach of the Struthers Wildcats, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. I don't want to, you know, I certainly don't want to ask something that would not be any of my business, but I'm curious about something. You have a lot of kids back. What are the goals and expectations at Struthers this year?
You know, every year we talk about this as a team, and, you know, every year our goal, number one, is to win a league championship, because if we can win the NE8 championship, we're a pretty damn good football team, and we can make some noise in the playoffs. So that's always our first goal. And, you know, our second goal was always week 11, but now with 16 teams, we had a team meeting, and our seniors said our number 2 goal is week 12 now, because really it's kind of like they're letting everyone play week 11. So, you know, those are our 2 team goals, but as the head coach, I really want to see, like I told you earlier on in the show, I just want to see growth. I really think these kids, you know, they have grown up, more mature, and I just really want to see us not make the same mistakes we made last year as a young squad. So my goal is to see, you know, week 1, 2, and 3 especially, let's not make the same mistakes we were making in week 5 last year that we were just learning. So as a head coach, and I think my coaching staff would agree, that's something we really want to see from this 2021 squad. We don't want to have to talk about the mistakes last year. Let's move on from those and learn from them. And our team goals is honestly a league championship in week 12.
The other part of this, and from what I understand, the OHSAA is going to have the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, which would be the round of 16 and then the quarterfinals. The higher seed would be the home team. I would imagine getting at least 1 home game, preferably 2, would be another good goal.
For sure. And, that was always, when it was 8 teams, we want to get in. If it's home or away, obviously every team wants to play home, but we want Week 11. So now that's kind of thrown a little in a different way, but for sure. I mean, if we could play another home game, Week 11 or Week 12, I mean, that would be wonderful. But it's just we want to get there and be healthy when we get there, and just like I said, try and make some noise.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast the summer has flown by. I mean, 4 weeks from Friday, actually 4 weeks from Thursday, we officially kick off the 2021 high school football season. And hopefully, knock on wood, everything is kicked to the curb, because I will hope the first game that is played at Struthers High School, when you see the stands full, no longer 15% capacity, no longer having to wear those god-awful masks, just to see a full stand and the parents and the student section and everyone going absolutely berserk. That's gonna feel so incredibly well, and I got to imagine your kids are going to be insanely fired up for the first home game.
Yeah, for sure, man. I just got the chills you talking about it. When we did a inter-squad scrimmage last year, that's our first scrimmage, we had about 50 to 75 people lined up on the outside of the stadium just to watch, because it was a closed scrimmage. But that's how anxious our fans are going to be, the parents are going to be, and obviously the kids and the coaching staff as well. It's just a different environment, man. That's why high school football is so fun and exciting, is because of the crowd and being under the lights on Friday night. So you're hitting the nail on the head. That it's just going to be a special moment when we come out of our locker room and the stands are full for the first time for a year and a half.
I'm wondering if there's a high school that the first day of 2-a-days, you purposely put the second one in the early evening, say 6:30, 7 o'clock, and you invite the community to come to the stadium, to sit in the stands and watch the second part of 2-a-days. I think that would be probably the coolest thing for everyone to say. Okay, it's not a game, but you're going to be able to sit in the stands and watch the second of the first 2-a-days and let the community have a blast.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened to us last year. We went under the lights. We set up our inter-squad scrimmage under the lights, and I think it was like a Friday evening or Thursday evening, and I'm telling you, people were sitting on top of their trucks and cars so they could see over the fence that was blocking the stadium, and that was just neat. The kids were wide-eyed like deer in headlights, like, everyone's here to watch us. So, I agree with you, because just from what we experienced last year, it would be kind of like the same deal.
Hey, Coach, best of luck to you in 2021. It's coming up on us pretty quickly, and hoping for a healthy year, number one, and number two, a real successful year for you guys. The kids are starting to grow up, and that's great news for Struthers, because the good times are about to roll in Wildcat territory.
I appreciate that, Ron. Like you said, I'm just hoping we stay healthy and get a couple W's this year that just are from, our kids learning last year. So I look forward to talking to you again. I appreciate you calling me.
All right, all the best to you, Coach.
Thank you.
John Bayuk, the head football coach of the Struthers Wildcats.